be a bit easier to just see the record after the class.
It's just a slides, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's some less talking.
Okay. Can we zoom in on the camera to students? Okay. So can NTU student hear from me? If you raise your hands, I can hear. Okay. Good. Now, according to the list, we should have 14 students in the class, but we only see 4 of you log into the WebEx. It is very important you log into the WebEx as soon as possible. If you don't do that, we will have no way to include you in the group exercise, okay? So now, try to log into WebEx. Let me know if there are more logging. Okay. Everyone should receive a WebEx login link from your TA, and you should not log in from the WebEx. Can we adjust our room camera to? I'd like the camera to see students, not all the empty space. Right. Okay. Later on, we have more students coming, then we can zoom out a little bit. Okay. Thank you. Do we have more logging now from WebEx? I'm sorry? 6. Okay. We have 2 more. I'd like everyone from NTU to log in, and I really want to make sure today's group exercise works well. You 2 should log in too, right? Okay. Okay. How many we have now from NTU? 7. Okay, we're getting there. If you have difficulty to log in the WebEx, you should let your TA or professor know. It is important you are in the class, both in person as well as on WebEx, okay? Let me know when we have more. Can we have a slide on this one? Okay. Slide on this one. Yeah. No, this one, the other one. Okay. Very good. Okay. How many we have? We have 14. You should log in WebEx right away. Okay. Good. Okay. Everything's fine? Yeah. I mean, PKU, remember I said they will try to log in from WebEx in case they want to participate from home. Okay? We should include them as well. Okay? How many we have from NTU? Okay. I'm sorry? Okay. So you will start to do the grouping, all right? Yeah, okay. Come in and log into the WebEx right away. Okay. Okay. I'd like to begin tonight's class. And tonight we have a much simpler connection. We have only 2 live class from Taiwan, from NTU, as well as from USC, because now as you look at our timetable, we are moving to week number 5. We are now on the module U4, and in this week, and you can see both the students from Peking as well as from Shanghai, they are enjoying a national holiday, and this is a major holiday break in China, so that their students are not on campus, but we are making the WebEx available. I understand some of the students in China are still able to log into the WebEx and still able to participate in this live class at home or from wherever they are. Now, next week, we are going to have the same situation from Taiwan. I understand next week, it will be a national holiday from Taiwan. So next week, we will not have the NTU class live, but we will have the class from Beijing as well as from Shanghai live. Now, I also like to encourage NTU students, if you can, if you find time or a location you can log in WebEx, and you can certainly log into WebEx to participate in our live class as normal, okay? Another thing I want to point out is if you look at the timetable, particularly if you look at the left-hand side for session A, we are now gradually adding more university campuses to this course. So today we just welcome another 20 students from Greece, from University of Patras. And next week we're going to have a bunch of students joining the class from session A from Germany, from Aachen. And the week after that, we're going to have another group of students joining us from Haifa, Israel, from Technion. So although you are in session B, you will not see the live class connection to those campuses, but you will see more names from those universities and more name of students from those universities pop up from your P2P system. So if you log into P2P system, if you click the class roster, you're going to see from now on, you're going to see more and more students adding to the list. In other words, the class now is expanding, although the live session and still remain pretty much the same as we started. But you will now have the opportunity to interact with more students from multiple countries. And by week number 7, 2 weeks from now, we should have the whole 8 university complete. And by that time, we'll kick into the phase 2 of this class, where in addition to the live class every week, we will also put everybody into a project team. When we assign the project team, we will assign students from both session A and session B all together. So again, although you will not be able to see each other in live class, you will have a chance to be assigned together with students from Germany, from Greece, from Israel to work together on the team project, which I will give you more detail today. Okay? So before the class, I want to emphasize, number one, next week when NTU students are on holiday, you are still able to participate in the class if you can find a time and location. Now, in case you cannot do that, as you know, we will always post the recording of the live class online afterwards. So you should be able to really find time to review these things to catch up. So by the time you return from your holiday, we assume everybody will be on the same page. Everything will be in sync, okay? So today we are going to talk about Module 4. And if you are familiar with this learning cycle, you should know this is now at the end of Module 4. We are going to have a summary of the module. And this module, we specifically talk about the concept called a market JSON. This is the gap between the early market and the mainstream market. So unless you're able to cross this JSON, you will not be able to survive into the mainstream market. And earlier, if you remember, we said the success of innovation is not determined by whether you have a new product at the beginning, but rather it depends on whether you are able to finish the competition in early market and then become a leader in the mainstream market. It is at the mainstream market where you're going to make a lot of profit to pay for your investment. Therefore, today's discussion about the market education, what you need to do to cross this gap, to become a leader in mainstream market, is a very important stage. It is the final stage for you to declare a success of your innovation. So we're going to talk about how do you do that and what it takes for you to become a leader in mainstream market. And today I have also prepared some cases, and tonight I'm going to use the case of laptop computer and tablet computer, and to explain to you what different companies are doing to create a new dominant design, which is required to cross the chasm. Because remember, creating dominant design is the final step for the success of your innovation, right? If you don't do that, you can never declare your success. So I'm going to use the laptop computer and tablet computer to explain to you how companies try to create this dominant design to create a new mainstream market. And then we're going to have a discussion, okay? So this is today's lecture. And since we only have two live class here, I want to make sure that we have enough time to do the 3 case exercise, and I want to make sure everybody can participate in this live discussion, and then you will have a chance to speak to the whole class regarding your results. Okay? So before I move forward, I wanted to give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay, I wanted to begin talking about your innovation project starting from week 5 today. Now, if you look at our calendar, the formal team assignment will only begin on week 7. But now at week 5, I want to start to introduce, every week I will introduce more information about team projects with the purpose that you can be ready to engage into the team project right after we make the team assignment. So I wanted to now say something about the innovation team project, okay? As you remember, we told you at the beginning, this semester, we were focusing on a topic which is very timely, which is truly a global topic, which every one of you, for example, this morning, and we have students from Greece, we have students from Mexico. So you can tell if you have been watching all the global refugee crisis, there's a lot of people now are forced to leave home from Africa, and they first go to the Greek island and then try to migrate into the European continent, right? So if you have a chance to talk with students from Greek, and you can tell they have a lot of local perspective. And this will give you a much broader understanding than your own view, which you can only read from newspaper. So this semester, we want you to propose some innovative solution. It could be a product concept. It could be a hardware. It could be a software. It could be a system. It could be a procedure which can help displaced population globally. Now, this is a very broad assignment. You should start to understand this problem by understand the reason, the social background for the forced displacement. That will enable you to understand what are the real demands of these people. Remember, the very first thing you want to do to innovate is to understand the demand, right? Once you have the good understanding of demand, you will then propose some solution to satisfy this demand. So I want you to focusing on understand the global displacement situation first. So starting from this week, and Martin, I believe we already created that discussion board, right? For the team project. Okay. So starting from this week, if now you get into the P2P system, and you will see on your right-hand side, you will see an additional discussion area called innovation team project. That is the area I want everybody now start to pull in all the relevant information which you have access to. It could be your local news. It could be your own case. It could be something you hear from other resources. I want everybody start to share all this information beginning from week number 5. So that by the time, so in the next 2 weeks, you will be able to have a very broad understanding of the topic. It doesn't matter which team you will be assigned to. Everybody needs to understand this problem. In 2 weeks from now, you will then be assigned to a small team. At that moment, hopefully you already have a broad understanding of the problem by sharing the information in discussion board so that you will be able to quickly focusing on your project. So that is why I wanted to now begin by telling you something more about this team project called Helping Displaced Population Globally. Okay? Now, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about the reasons of the forced displacement that you are interested in. Again, the reason is you want to understand the demand. Because there are many different reasons that people are forced to leave their home to migrate to different places. We do not want to talk about the political background of those reasons. We don't want to get into a political discussion, but it is very important to understand the actual reason that forced them to leave home so that you can clearly identify their demand. Okay? So here I give you some example of the reasons. Say, for example, people can be forced to leave home because natural disaster, right? Now, if you follow the news in America, you can tell in the last month we have a major hurricane hit Puerto Rico. Just last week, we have another major one hit the Bahamas, right? So because of this natural disaster, and you're going to see people have to migrate from their home. So this is one of the reasons. Environmental problem. Now, if you follow the global news, you can tell there are several small island country in South Pacific, and their land is actually sinking, or the seawater is rising. As a result, they are losing their land very quickly, and then they have to be forced to migrate to other places in the world. So this is another reason. Like a man-made disaster, for example, years ago we have this major explosion of chemical plant in Texas, and this also happened in a pharmaceutical plant in India. Recently, for example, we have this major forest fire in Amazon forest in Brazil, because people tried to take those forest land and to become agricultural land. As a result, it caused a fire and then forced a lot of people have to move, right? So there's a lot of man-made disaster. And there also, so the Amazon fire could be a development-induced problem. And certainly people are forced to leave home because civil war, political or religious conflict, that's obvious. And we also have cases about human trafficking and human smuggling, and all the way to ethnic cleansing and slavery. Now, again, I do not want us to discuss the political aspect of such disaster. I want you to understand the reason for them to leave home, and then you will be able to create a scenario to imagine the daily challenges those people are facing. Those challenges, when they are at home, it could be no big deal, like clean drinking water, like have a food to eat, have the food to feed their baby, and like personal security, right? And as simple as, for example, to prove your identity. Because once you leave home to a different place, it is very hard your ID card become invalid. It's very hard to really have a good way to prove your identity. If you want to reestablish your life in different places, for example, you have to prove that you actually have certain level of education. How do you prove that, right? So there are many, many things which are not a big deal at all for people who are living in a traditional environment at home. but I want you to imagine that once you are forced to leave your home in a complete new environment, what could be the unique challenge? Now, this is the area where you can do a lot of innovation, because if you're able to identify a very interesting demand, you already succeeded in the first step of innovation, right? So I want you to be creative in identify their demand. Once you identify their demand, you like to propose some functional requirements. These are your solutions. Remember, we said in innovation, there are four things you want to do. You want to start with demand. Then you want to propose solution in terms of the function, which you can develop a product, a service, or system to deliver. Only after function, only after demand function, then you can talk about performance and price. This particular project was specifically focused on your ability to uncover the demand and propose the function. Okay? So when you start to propose function, so understand the demand, the first phase, we can pretty much do together as a whole class, because it really, the information can be shared with everyone. But then as you start to choose a particular demand and you start to propose a specific set of function for this demand, you will be working with your teammates specific. Because those, I hope every team will come with a different solution, right? So this is why we want to begin the discussion right now, with the hope that you will have more, you'll be more ready to work with your teammates. Okay. So in terms of proposing your solution, I want you to be specific about what the problem you want to address and how do you propose to address this problem. So basically, this is a question of what do you want to do, how do you do that, right? Then the last one, the last step is I want you to take quick action. I want you to quickly come up with the implementation and development plan. Now, this course, you only have 7 weeks to work on this problem. We do not expect you come with the actual prototype, because that will take too long. In other words, I can only evaluate your result based on the demand you identify and the function you propose. Based on how you propose to implement that, how do you propose to deploy that? I will not be able to look at your result and evaluate what could be the likely performance and what could be the likely price and cost, because we don't have time to evaluate, we don't have time to develop a project into a complete cycle in order to have a detail for evaluation. So when you start to come up with implementation plan and deployment plan, it will be basically your proposal regarding how you're going to carry this out. So after that, when you develop these things, I want you to now go back to module number 3. If you recall, in module number 3, we talk about a particular strategy which you can create a product into a brand new market very quickly. This is called rapid product launch strategy. Remember, this strategy will first guide you to select excitement feature. Now, the excitement feature basically is the key to make an emotional appeal to your customer, because the initial customer are emotional, they are not rational. And once you select this excitement feature, you will then go through a minimal viable product model, and then you will try to see whether you can design your product in such a way you can follow this hook model. So people will very naturally end up using your product, and eventually your product or your service become a dominant design, then you succeed in the mainstream market. So here you should refer back to what we learned in the class. And then finally, I'd like you to make a presentation. And here I put something like a Shark Tank style team presentation. Now, for those of you who does not know what Shark Tank style, you should go to the website. And this is a very popular show now in America, where you have a group of entrepreneurs, and they bring their new idea. They have a limited amount of time, and then they will be bringing this idea in front of in front of a group of investors, and they will try to convince the investor this is a good idea in order to secure investment in a very competitive way. So it should not be a very long presentation. It should be a presentation that really appeal to the very initial customer, which are your investor. At the end, we're going to have the presentation. We're going to have faculty from all different universities and other guests to be the investor, and we're going to look at your results. Okay? So this is what I would like to tell you so that you can begin to think about your project. At this stage, what you need to do is to go out to look for all the relevant information, pull this information into the discussion board specifically for innovation team project for everybody to share, okay? And then in 2 weeks, we will tell you the groups, and then you will need to engage into specific teamwork with the group with your team member. Now, we will not spend time in the live class to work on a team project because the live class every week we only have 2 hours, and we don't have time to work on team project in live class. But we will briefly mention the team project, give you some feedback, give you additional guidelines if necessary when we start a team project. In other words, the work of your team project should be conducted between you and your team member outside the class, okay? It's not part of the live class activity. So here, before I leave, I want you to understand, even though the team project started week number 7, we are now beginning the preparation phase, which is from week 5 to 7. I want you to have a divergent thinking to collect all the information to be as broad as possible so that you can move into the cross-campus team starting from week number 7. And by that time, you should be then focusing on a specific topic you want to work on. And typically, this is going through like a cycle. And I also want you, particularly the student from Session B who have opportunity to participate in the live class all the way from beginning and to be very ready to help your teammates from university like in Germany or Israel because they come to class later and they may not be as ready as you are. So for those come to the class earlier, you should play a more leadership role in your teamwork, okay? And so at the end, we want you to have a quick lunch plan. It's a presentation, and then we will conclude the team project, okay? Now, if you have any questions, you have any comments there, you're also welcome to express those things from in the discussion board, so we'll have a chance to respond, okay? And next week, I will also say a few words more about team project, but you should begin your information collection right now, okay? So let me now move to the next one. The next one is really this cycle. I wanted to show everybody again. So this tells you that we only have 2 hours, and we are now in session B. I want to quickly remind you the extra opportunity. The first one is the local news. Now, if you go to the P2P system now, you should be able to see we have a special area, again, on the right-hand side of the interface, which is called recent local news. So if you click that, you will see different week. Now, we are in week number 5. So you will click week number 5, and you will have opportunity to post those news. And we'd like you to briefly comment on why this is relevant, what's the specific subject relevant to our course. If you do so, you earn 3 points because we will have people to check on who actually contribute this, and then we will have a record for you to earn extra points. You should also see we now have created another area on the right-hand side because the right-hand side is all for interaction. On the right-hand side, we have an area called Campus Study Journal. Again, this is by week. Every week, we like to have someone from each campus to put something over there to share. And we already have such area there. So now if you can put some information there, and once we see this information, you will also receive extra bonus points. The last one is last time I started to encourage everybody to look at our course topic. For example, this week we are studying the market chaser. Once you understand that idea of market chasing, I want you to relate this idea from the classroom to your own life experience. And if you see some cases that you are familiar with, you should then be able to come to me to propose a specific case for our live class group discussion. That will be the most preferred kind of live discussion, because then you will be able to work with me to prepare such case. You will then be the leader to lead the case discussion in live class. Now, I'm very pleased to tell you now, so far I have received 3 proposals already from different campuses. And likely I will work with a case from Peking, and the student proposed to use the current market situation for car sharing, ride sharing in China. You know, this is a big market, big innovation market in China. And he's going to use this case and to explain to you what happened to the dominant design of the car sharing service, because now it seems that different companies in this market have different kind of functional requirements. So they are fighting for the dominant design, and I will work with this student to come with a set of questions. So hopefully we will have a student-led case study next time. Now, I want to continue to encourage people from different campuses to do so, because this is the best way to demonstrate your understanding of the topic by relating to your own experience. This is also the best way for you to contribute to this global class. Now, here we have a very major reward, because if you do so, after you made a effort, work with me to prepare this, after you lead a discussion, you will earn total 10 points, because this is almost like a whole week of work, right? So we'll give you 10 extra points. Okay? So this are all now this opportunity are now open to everybody. I encourage all of you to participate in these things on the P2P system, so that you will contribute to the course and earn extra points for yourself. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, now very quickly, we are now moving to this discussion. Okay, so you can tell now, this week I am going to spend only 10 minutes on the review, so hopefully we have more than an hour to finish at least 2 or 3 cases that we prepare for the exercise. Okay? So now we are beginning. So I just finished the opening introduction. You can tell this opening introduction, that's really the beginning, right? So now I am moving into the module 4. In module 4, we talk about market chasing. The reason this is important is because this is a point separating early market, where you have emotional customer, from the mainstream market, where you have rational customer. In other words, the strategy for innovator will be completely different if you are in early market or if you are in late market. Not late market, the mainstream market. What it takes for you to cross this gap is something called dominant design. So from the pre-study material, you should already understand what is the dominant design, why such dominant design is critical, what will happen if we don't have dominant design, what will happen if you have a dominant design. So this is the very critical point. As I said moments ago, this is the last effort, the most important effort you need to do to make a successful innovation. Because you may actually be successful in creating a product, you put in the market, but then you fail to make that product become a dominant design, then at the end, you still fail. That is not a successful innovation. Okay? So this is a very important concept. Another important thing is if you look around many products, if you truly understand the idea of dominant design or market chaser, you can clearly tell whether this product is in early stage or this product is in mainstream market. Why? Because you can clearly tell that compare different products whether they have a shared dominant design. If they do, you will then say this is in mainstream product. If they don't, you will say this is still an early market. For example, the best example to illustrate is, for example, now if you look at various different kinds of smartphones in the smartphone market, I can assure you it doesn't matter which company makes the smartphone. Or in some cases, it doesn't even matter it is an iOS system or Android system, and you can pretty much tell that as long as you're looking for a smartphone market, most smartphone products have a common set of functional requirements. They all have to have a camera, they all have to have make a call, they all have to music player, they all have all these activities. Those commonly agree upon functional requirements is called dominant design. And because now you can pretty much sure that there is a dominant design being shared by multiple products in this market, so you can pretty safe to say that the smartphone market right now is in mainstream market. In other words, if you are innovator, you want to enter the smartphone market, you must now focusing on performance and price. Because it is only the market, the mainstream market will do that, right? You will then have to be very ready to appeal to the rational customer. In other words, when people come to look at your product, when they compare your product with another product, they will be very rational in terms of compare the performance and price ratio. And that's why now you can see Apple company, for example. Apple has always been a strong leader in early market. When Apple developed iPhone, remember the case I explained to you 2 weeks ago? I show you a lot of phones there. I show you the iPhone history. If you look at iPhone history from the first generation to iPhone 4, basically that time the smartphone was still in early market. As a result, people just lining up, waiting for the new iPhone come out. Nobody complained the iPhone is too expensive, right? And everybody just jumped to it because all these are emotional customers. But today, after iPhone 4, 5, 6, 7, particularly now we have iPhone 11, you can tell because there's a lot of new company coming. You can tell every time iPhone introduce a new version, they have to justify what will be the additional performance, what will be the price. Why? Because right now, if they don't care about price performance, they will not be able to compete anything in the mainstream market. Because the mainstream market is where the smartphone industry is. Right? Now, if you go back to look at another market, which is a new market, is a smartwatch. Okay? If you look at smartwatch, and you will be able to see many different companies make different smartwatch. But if you really compare what each smartwatch try to do, you will see quite big differences. Some smartwatch are more tailored to exercise. Some smartwatch more tailored to business that link together with smartphone. Some watch are more tailored to, for example, navigation, social networking, so that you will see not all the smartwatch have a same set of functional requirements. Which means what? Which means this is still a market which is before the market change, right? Because it's before market change, because it doesn't have a dominant design. As a result, you'll find out right now, the competition in the smartwatch industry market is very different from the competition in smartphone. Because in smartphone, people will certainly come down to compare performance and price. But in smartwatch, it's pretty much the choice of your lifestyle. If you are an outdoor person, or if you are a business office worker, you will wear different smartwatch, right? It's not about performance or price. It's more related to what? Lifestyle. Remember we talked about you have to really get people excited in terms of lifestyle meaning. So you can clearly tell that smartwatch now is still in an early market before the dominant design. As a result, something could happen in smartwatch. For example, if they keep doing this in compatible products, the smartwatch market may even disappear. But sooner or later, the people in smartwatch area will come together to agree upon a set of functional requirements. By that time, you will see almost all the smartwatch will have a similar functional requirement. That is an indication that smartwatch has already passed the market chasing, has already entered the mainstream market. It is from there you can then compare performance and price. Okay? So I use this example to tell you how you can use market chasing and dominant design to decide on different kind of innovation strategy that you will do. Okay? So here, if you recall the study material, we introduced 4 topics. The first one is we're going to explain to you that what happened in early market. Because early market means people already see a demand. Because early market has relatively low entry barrier. So once the demand is being uncovered, multiple people will come in and say, okay, now I have a good solution for this demand. So everybody come with a good idea. So you're going to have a lot of product offer, and some of them will be rejected right away by the market because the early market not only have the low entry barrier, the early market also have a low exit cost. So people go in there, try. If it doesn't work, it will just go. And eventually, you're going to see multiple product incompatible exist in early market. Then you need to work on dominant design. And the dominant design is a very important decision. It's a consensus by everybody in the market. It's not a regulation. It's a consensus. And also, this dominant design is a very different concept from monopoly. Monopoly means one specific company have a dominating force over the whole market. In other words, you will not have a free, open competition. But dominant design is different. Dominant design is a set of standards for new product which is agreed upon by multiple companies. You see that difference? Okay, so for example, now smartphone has a dominant design, but not one company dominate the whole smartphone industry. You have multiple companies in smartphone. Okay? So the dominant design refer to a specific set of standard for the product. It does not refer to company. Because if you talk about a dominance of a company, that becomes monopoly. It's a different subject. Okay? And then how do you cross market chasing? And finally, we will give you some idea about what happens after you cross market chasing. The last concept B will be the preparation for you to move into module 5, where we are going to talk about the beginning of your mainstream market. So this module 4 is the last module we will talk about the early market. After that, we assume you succeeded and you will enter mainstream market in module 5. If you fail to cross chasing, you will then leave the market, or you will have to go to another market to fight for a different dominant design. Okay? So I will now only give you one slide to review the whole 4 key concepts, and then we'll move into the case study. So the first important thing to understand so far is a successful innovation must create a new market, not necessarily a new product. This is often being confused by people in the technology area. They believe they know technology, they create a new product, their job is done. No. The product you create for innovation is only the means to the end. The product is the means. The end is what? It's a new market. How do we define new market? A market which has a dominant design, right? A new mainstream market. So first you want to make sure that you create a new market with a dominant design. Then a new market is created by forming a dominant design. In other words, the real target, the goal of innovation is not just create a new product, but create a new product and make sure I'm sorry? You should talk to them. I have no control of that. Yeah. Yes. Is it better? Well, I dress well every night, so I want to make sure everybody see me, okay? So you haven't seen me? Are you able to see me now? Okay, very good, very good. Okay. So the first thing is to understand that the success of innovation is determined by whether you are able to create a new market. And the way you create a new market is to introduce a new product which will become the dominant design of that market, right? So in other words, to be successful in innovation, you need to know not only create a new product, but also to compete with other ideas so that at the end, your product becomes the dominant design, then you can declare the success of your innovation. Okay? So, in other words, now we are talking about starting from 0 to 1. Remember last time we talked about 0 to 1? 0 means there's no market, nothing. There's no demand, and there's no customer. 1 means what? 1 does not mean one product. 1 means one well-established market. That's important. That one market could have multiple products, but they all have to share the same dominant design. Otherwise, it's not a one market. Understand the point? So when you arrive at 1, you succeeded in creating a new market. You now have a clear demand. And more importantly, you have a dominant design of the functional requirement that all try to satisfy that clear demand. That is the 1. So if you want to look into the S-curve, remember the S-curve, as well as the bell curve, which shows demand, and you can clearly tell when you are 1, that's where you are 1, right? At the beginning, at the first point S-curve. I'm sorry, you are at 0, okay? That's 0. Now, where is the 1? 1 is where? Here. 1, if you follow the S-curve, 1 means the point where the slope of S-curve changes. Before that 1 point, the slope of the curve is small. After that, the slope increases. So that is where you see the 1. On the other hand, if you look at that 1 point from the bell curve, that is very interesting because before that 1 point on bell curve, you are all targeting an emotional customer because they are the early adopter. After that, you are appealing to rational customer in the mainstream market. So these 2 points are very critical. It completely changes the nature of the market as well as the type of customer, okay? So what you need to do is you need to uncover the opportunity. Remember, if you recall moments ago, I introduced your innovation project. This is what you need to do, uncover the demand, right? Uncover what will be the real opportunity. Then you're going to act very quickly, and then you're going to compete, establish dominant design, okay? So now in this module, number 4, we are talking about how do you establish dominant design. So the rest of them is just basically very simple summary of what you should already learn from the concept. So at a 0 point, many innovators will propose new products with incompatible function requirements to satisfy the same demand in a blue ocean market. So everybody will focus on that demand because you cannot have a patent to protect your demand, right? So everybody can do that. And everybody will do that based on their understanding of what will make their customer excited. Remember, that's the key to have excitement feature, right? And because every innovator has different understanding of customers' lifestyle, they will naturally propose different kind of excitement feature. Not all of them will be truly exciting for customer, and therefore customer will be bombarded with multiple offers, and this market will not grow because they have so many incompatible products. And then, for the reason of collective survival, in other words, if you do nothing to keep doing that, eventually the market dies. Everybody dies. So for the reason of collective survival, innovator will arrive at a mutual consent. The consent is not about how to make the product. The consent is not about what should be the performance or price of product. Rather, the consent is about what should be a typical set of functions that this product should offer. That is the dominant design, okay? So once you have that dominant design, people can then offer their product according to that same standard. As a result, they can start to compete on performance and price, okay? So the consent is not based on, it's based on market share, not performance and price, because it is still too early to talk about performance price. But it is very important that at the beginning, you try to push your market share. How do you do that? You have to be very careful in selecting the excitement feature. You have to be very strategic, focusing on seduce your customer in, then hook them into the hook model, right? So this is all for the reason of market share. And only those who follow dominant design will cross market chasing. Those who do not will leave the market or find another new market, okay? So once you cross the chasing, you are now one. Now you can say, I am at point one, and innovators can then begin to compete performance and price, not before. And this is what we're going to talk about next. And now the innovator must adjust their strategy to compete in the market, because now market is called mainstream market. And here you will have to devote a lot of resources to improve your performance, to lower your price, which will be the discussion for the next two modules. We're going to talk about this next two modules, okay? So with this, I assume you have already fully understand the concept of early market, because this will be the last module we talk about early market, and you should also understand the link or the gap between early and mainstream market, which is the market chasing, and why you need to have a dominant design to cross them, okay? So now, I have the rest of 70 minutes. I wanted to move into the case study. Now, if you recall, the subject of this learning module is about creating a new market, right? Because remember, that's really the goal of innovation, creating a new market with a dominant design. One of the reasons that people always need to do that is because we know from Esper, if you do not try to create a new market, sooner or later the existing market will become saturated. In other words, sooner or later the market will become saturated, the profit will go slow, eventually market ends, right? So everybody ideally would like to create a new market, because new market means new demand, right? New demand means new profit, means a new life. So creating a new market, in other words, introduce product and make sure the product becomes dominant design is the #1 challenge for innovation. This is particularly true for market leader. Because the market leader, they entered a market first. So if everything goes as scheduled, they will arrive at the late market first, right? So they will first experience this problem of saturation, correct? So not only creating new market is important for everyone, it is especially important for market leaders. Now, here I want to focusing on the specific type of market leader, which are software companies. Good examples are Microsoft and Google, right? You can clearly tell Microsoft, Google are leaders, but they create their leadership by making software, not hardware, right? They are leaders, therefore they need to create new markets. But more urgently, the software company must create a new market so that they can start to get away from software-only business. Why? Because there's a clear trend right now that software, no matter how sophisticated is your software, they are gradually become commodity and become service, and worse yet, it becomes free service. Right? So no matter, so for example, if you look at Microsoft produce a lot of Windows operating systems. They charge money from the manufacturer who produce Windows laptop, which when we buy laptop, we don't see it, we don't pay Microsoft, but actually part of money go to Microsoft, right? If you look at the Windows system they produce, a Windows system which has, the Office system, which has multiple programs for spreadsheet, for Word, for Outlook, for mail, for different things, that whole package used to sell for $300, $400 US. But now, you know what? If you don't want to use Microsoft, you can get all these functions from Google, right? The Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google, all these things there, and it is completely free. And nobody can compete with free. So right now, if you really still want to use Microsoft Office, you can get a copy, $19.99. Almost from $400 to $19.99. So if you're sitting in the Microsoft headquarters office, you will constantly think about where will be the future, right? Because the software certainly become commodity, become service, become free service. And you better act before it's too late. Because someone will come in one day with a complete free service, by that time it's too late for you, right? Google faces the same problem. Google makes a lot of profit from their service right now. But a lot of service now become increasingly free. So Google also faces the same problem. Now, if you look at the thinking of software company, you find that most of them start to think about, hey, if we are so good in software, if so many other hardware companies use our software, why can't we become those hardware companies? Very natural, right? In other words, Google may think, okay, if everybody use my Android system to make phone, I should be able to make better phone if I do hardware, right? Microsoft should also think about if every laptop running my Windows, there's no reason I cannot make a better laptop, right? So for example, if you look at Google, okay, this is a very clear case about 4 or 5 years ago, Google decided to create a new market in hardware. So what Google did is Google spent about $2 billion to purchase a phone company called Motorola. Motorola is a very big company. The majority of them is for mobile device. So Google paid about $2 billion to buy the mobile device division of Motorola. The reason is very clear, right? Because Google thinks if they can own Motorola, they should be able to combine their software power, Android, with Motorola's experience in making the hardware, the phone hardware, right? So they will come with the best Android phone. What happened is, immediately after they announced the purchase, all their existing customers, Samsung, HTC, Nokia, all the Chinese phone companies who use Android start to protest. Why? Because this is obvious now you are now competing with your existing customer, right? Because once you own Motorola, certainly you will favor your own children, right? Rather than giving the best technology to the stepchildren, right? So at the end, after 1 year, Google received enough complaint, and they decided to cut off this strategy. So they very quickly sold that whole package they bought from Motorola to another company called Lenovo, and the sale price was $1 billion. So in 1 year, Google actually cut a loss of $1 billion to correct this mistake. Remember, they bought it for $2 billion, and they sold it for $1 billion because they discovered this is not working. Later on, if we have time, I'm going to come back to you to tell you what Google now do instead. Google still have their own phone called Pixel, right? But you can tell Pixel is not a phone that compete on the mass market. They are niche market, okay? But the best way to explain how a software company can move into a new market by creating dominant design is actually not looking at Google, but looking at another software leader, Microsoft. So now I'm going to present you a case about how Microsoft succeeded in creating this dominant design for a new category of computing device, right? Because remember we said the easiest thing for Microsoft to do is to make their own laptop, right? But then everybody will protest, right? And also the more they make this traditional laptop, the sooner the laptop become commodity. At the end, everybody lose. So Microsoft, as the supplier for the Windows system, cannot do the same thing as the Windows manufacturer. So what do they do? So now I want to give, can we have the camera look at all this laptop here? Excuse me. Well, can we move this here? Okay. Yes? What? Yes, please. Yeah, please do that. Okay, we are now going to make a group now because in another few minutes, I will start to have a group exercise. So make sure if you come in late, make sure you log into WebEx right now. You must log in WebEx, otherwise you will have no way to participate for the rest of the class, okay? Are we having most people now? This one's not in. Okay? What else? Okay, it's all okay. Okay, so how about let the camera look at the different laptop I bought over here? We have to ask you to move because you're blocking the camera. Sorry about that. Okay? So I want the camera to follow me from here. Okay, so what I have here is a most traditional laptop. Now, when you talk about laptop, there's no question about the function requirement. It's already having dominant design, correct? Laptop will have a screen, will have a keyboard, and everything else. So it doesn't matter which brand of laptop you're buying, you are buying the same set of function requirements. The only difference is how much performance and how much is the price, correct? And these things, the laptop, you can tell, because it has already become a dominant design, it very quickly are moving toward commodity. So today, the laptop price become very low. It used to be over $1,000. Now, a couple $100, you can buy a pretty decent laptop, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. So in order to survive in this highly competitive price competition, the laptop company which been keep making this standard laptop, like this is a Sony laptop, very good one, and they start to do a lot of little tricks. Say, for example, they start to make this additional peripheral. Okay, so this is a peripheral which you can click in the back of the laptop, lock it in, so you have more memory, you have more battery, you have more storage. Now, these things will continue to go on. But this does not really change the situation, the saturation of this laptop, right? Understand? So in other words, when laptop manufacturers suffer of saturation, Microsoft also suffers. So if Microsoft started to make their own laptop, okay, by the way, this is a Microsoft laptop. This is, okay, this laptop from, can we have the camera on the table? Table, yes. So this laptop is about 10 years old. Okay? This is the laptop of today. Today, Microsoft also make laptop. I'm going to come back to tell you why they do that. If you look at, it's very sleek. This is called Surface. Surface Book or Surface laptop. It's called Surface laptop. Okay? Very light, very thin, very beautiful material. Everything is integrated, has a processing power much better than this one. Storage much higher. Screen is much larger and has higher resolution. But still, it is in the same market. Right? So, what Microsoft decided to do is try to see whether they can create a new market by a set of dominant designs, which is what? Which is a market that tries to merge between laptop and another market which is called tablet. Okay? So now, let's pay a little bit attention to the tablet market. Now, tablet really become a mainstream market over the past 5 years. But you have to look at, actually the idea of tablet is not new. Here I have the first generation tablet, which believe or not, is made by Apple. Well, in the past semester, students broke this piece, so now I don't have a complete, but this is a very classical, very famous Apple tablet. It is called Apple Newton. It's more than 10 years ago. This is actually the first ever tablet. And you can tell this design never become dominant design, right? Because today you never see it, right? But if you look back, this old tablet is very interesting. First, remember that people quote Steve Jobs saying, no tablet should have a pen, right? But actually have a pen. So Microsoft tablet actually have a pen, right? And if you look at how old is this technology, if you open the battery pack here, the battery is actually, oops, all the pieces fall out. Huh? Okay, so if you open the battery piece, you can tell it's actually used the AA battery. I mean, look at how behind the technology, right? And can you imagine this laptop actually don't have wireless? So if you want to have wireless, you have to use a separate card. This is called PCMCIA card. Okay? So as a result, some other company actually make this card which has the PDA function, and you can put a card into it. Okay? So it has a very little connectivity, and it doesn't have Bluetooth. Instead, has the infrared. Okay? So you can tell this is an early product of tablet, but never become a dominant design. It never crossed the mainstream market, right? So this is another one, an early tablet. This one is made by NEC. By the way, NEC used to be a major laptop company, and they also jumped into tablet. So if you look at this one, it's getting a little bit closer to the tablet we know today, right? But it's still very primitive technology. The display is black and white. It has a lot of buttons here. Why? Because at that moment, the tablet does not have a touch screen. Okay? And the battery is pretty chunky here. and the wireless was still very new technology. As a result, they must have a separate antenna for the wireless. Okay? So if you look at this kind of product, it's getting closer to the tablet in our mind today, so it's still not a dominant design. It has not crossed the market chaser, right? So until about 5 years ago, you will see this kind of tablet. This is what we see as tablet today, right? So it's simply one piece that you have the screen, most of the screen, and you have a touch screen, so you don't have to have a separate keyboard. If you want a separate keyboard, it is a peripheral you can add on the case. And this one has an embedded battery, has a wireless, has a Bluetooth, has a camera. See, this one doesn't have a camera, right? This now become a dominant design of tablet. In other words, today, this is happened to be a Lenovo tablet, right? But if I go to buy a HP tablet, if I go to buy a Dell tablet, it will pretty much have the same function, right? So if you compare this one with this one, and clearly this has already passed the dominant design, and this has not. Understand the point? Okay, so now this is a dominant design. And on the PC side, on the laptop side, this is a dominant design, right? So you have a dominant design of a laptop, which everybody agree now. You have a dominant design of tablet, which everybody now understands, right? And once you become dominant design, very quickly the market becomes saturated, right? So what Microsoft decided to do is to see if I can create a new market category which combine these two dominant designs, become a new dominant design. In other words, create a new market so that everybody else in the market can sell more Windows gadgets. In turn, Microsoft can sell more Windows. Understand the point? Okay, so this is what Microsoft did. About 5-6 years ago, Microsoft launched a very major product effort to create a product line called Surface. So this is Microsoft Surface. And the difference is now this has a detachable keyboard, and this is more than just a case. It's a very nice keyboard. You can detach and you can pull out. This is the first time they start to use magnetic as a good interface. Now you can tell this is getting very popular. Many, including your iPad now has this magnet, right? So this is the first one. Now the unique thing about this Surface is the way it supports itself. Because if you look at the laptop, if you compare a tablet, this is a tablet, right? Compare that with a laptop, the main difference is how it supports the screen. For a traditional laptop, there's no problem because the keyboard is under there, the screen is part of the keyboard, right? You open that. But this one, you need to find a way to support it, right? Many other manufacturers use a case to support that. That's not ideal. So what Microsoft did is they create this design. This is the first design. Create a new function requirement to support the screen. Actually, not only the screen, the whole computer is there, right? Because now you have a screen, the memory, everything. This is simply just a keyboard, correct? So all the weight has to be here. So Microsoft started to create it. Now, Microsoft actually owns the patent of the hinge design. Because if you look at the inside the hinge, it has a lot of mechanisms. This is a very reliable and very smooth, and you can also bend it in multiple angles, always to 180 degrees, and you can bend it to multiple angles. So Microsoft started to create Surface. The Surface Pro is a very new product, and it's very expensive. Because the reason Microsoft produces product is not to compete for the price. It's actually try to create a standard for everybody else to buy in. As everybody else buy in, they can sell more Windows systems. You get the idea? This is very different from what Google was trying to do with Motorola, right? Because Google was trying to buy Motorola to make Android phone. Microsoft tried to build a product, and if they succeeded in this new design, this is a very new design. If they succeed in this new design, that's foldable, everything can be folded into one piece, and you can then open it like a laptop. This become a laptop, right? And this become a tablet. If they succeed in new design, they will then release this design free of charge to everybody else. That is a key strategy, because their purpose is not to make money out of this new design, this new dominant design, but rather try to use this new dominant design to create new market for the rest of the window manufacturer. So the rest of the window manufacturer will follow this design to create more window device, and Microsoft will become more profitable. Understand the point? This is how Microsoft started to create this dominant design. Now, this, after 5 years, now we have Surface Pro, I think starting from 2, 3, 4 now, last week. Literally, no, not last week. Yesterday, Microsoft has the new product announcement. They come with the newest one called Surface Pro 7. This is Surface Pro 6, okay? So this is the newest one. And starting from Surface Pro 5, this has already become a dominant design. Once it becomes dominant, I'm going to show you now, there's many other companies do this. And the Microsoft started to tweak this dominant design and try to further expand the product, the market, right? So this is called Microsoft Surface Pro. It is Surface Go. It is basically exactly the same thing as this one, except it is much smaller. So this is really actually this is the one that I use the most, because this is so light, and on the airplane, or when you lay on the bed or on your chair, this is most comfortable to use. But if I want it, I can also type something in there. I can actually work this as a laptop. Got it? So Microsoft has succeeded in combining these two categories into a new dominant design. And the purpose is to create a new market, right? So you can tell the history, and they started to create this new market, right? So before I ask you a question, I want to show you that Microsoft has not stopped in here, because they succeeded in one, and now they release this. Now they release this to all other manufacturers. Okay. For example, let me show you this. Okay. So now. Okay, so now you look at Microsoft has released this to company like Dell. So now you can buy a Dell laptop, which is exactly this, right? But this is about 30% more expensive than that. So obviously Microsoft is not interested in selling a lot of this. If they do, Dell will object, right? You understand the strategy? And they also do the same thing with, like, Asus now have this laptop. See, this is almost identical. This is a Microsoft design. So now you can tell this become a dominant design, right? And Microsoft is not making money out of this, but they are making money off all this. You see, HP has this one. HP did a little bit tweak. They took this inside out. It become just like a bar, like a frame, right? See that? You see that? So they can add a little bit more battery and still be a little bit lighter, right? You look at the Acer. Acer also follow HP, do the same thing. And you look at Lenovo. Lenovo also have this, right? And there's a new company even coming with this. So you can clearly tell this has succeeded, become a new design. And Microsoft is now generating profit from all of this manufacture because they have to buy more Windows. Is that clear? But their success is because they create a new market not because they create a new product. The new product is a means to the end. Is that clear? So now let me show you what Microsoft is currently doing. This is a very exciting one. This is another thing which Microsoft started about I think 3 years ago. This is called Surface Book. So if you look at this, it's just a laptop, right? But it's more than that. The reason is this is a laptop. Can we? Okay. So this is a laptop that you can push a button, okay, and then you can disjoint this display. You can take this display off. Not only you can take display off, and you can put it backwards, right? And it becomes a complete different laptop. It becomes a complete, we call the foldable device. You see that, the foldable device? Okay. You say, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal. Because if you think about this has to be a separate device. In other words, everything you need, the memory, the battery, the storage, the display, everything has to be in here. This part literally is just a keyboard, right? Maybe you can add a little bit battery inside, but this is not really the main thing, right? So if you now have two pieces, you have two pieces like that. They have to be folded together, just match each other like this, right? What happens is this piece will always be much heavier than this piece. You see my point? Right? This piece will be much heavier than this piece, right? So imagine if you connect these two pieces, which the moving piece is heavier than the base. 1 second. I'm not breaking this. Oh, I put it wrong direction. Okay. So if you try to join these two pieces, now remember, this is heavier than this, right? What happened? If you open this up, what will happen? If this is heavier, it will flip, right? You understand my point? And the reason this original design did not flip is because this one has a support in the back, right? So there's no such problem. But once you want to do this foldable, and most of the component has to be here, it will flip, right? Why this one did not? Why this one is able to stay very stable? That is the major technology breakthrough which Microsoft did. So now I want a camera to zoom in to the specific hinge here, okay? This is the hinge that Microsoft spent a lot of time to develop, okay? So now I want you to pay attention to the hinge here, okay? I want to come over here, okay? So look at the hinge. As I open up this laptop, I want you to see where is the center of rotation, okay? Now, before I do that, I want you to see these things match each other, right? So ideally, typically when I open that, the upper half and lower half should have the same area, right? But now look at what happened. As I open it, what happened? Are you able to see it? What happened? Exactly. So if you start to pay attention, you'll find it's very, very innovative because the hinge does not actually rotate in the center line. Because if it rotates in the center line, you will have the upper area and lower area the same area, and the upper area is heavier, it will flip, right? So the way Microsoft solved this problem is to design this special hinge so that as you open this up, you see what happened? The bottom area becomes larger than the upper area. You got it? So now you already know what happened. Let me show you one more time, and I want you to pay close attention, okay? So this bottom area now is larger. It's become longer than the upper area, right? So as a result, this is very stable. Got it? So this is actually a new breakthrough. Again, if you look at the website, there's a lot of detail. If you open up this hinge, it has it's a 200 parts. Very, very sophisticated. Now, the reason Microsoft wants to do this is because now Microsoft is opening up another new market category. Again, as a leader, they have to keep open market category, right? Which is called foldable device. I'm going to come to that afterwards, okay? So with this, now I am ready for you to discuss with your group member on the simple question of the first. Okay, first I want you to compare this Surface, okay? This is called Microsoft Surface, right? I want you to compare the difference between this device and a typical tablet and a typical laptop. Why? Because once you understand that difference, you can understand what needs to be standardized, right? It is additional function requirement. So that is question number one. And question number two, I want you to understand, to answer, what is the strategic reason for Microsoft to develop the Surface line? It is obviously not to make profit out of this, because this is not an existing product, right? As a matter of fact, if you follow my example, you should already have the answer for that. And the last one, obviously, has Microsoft succeeded in achieving the strategic goal in number two. Got it? Okay. So now, everyone look at your laptop, whatever in front of you. Everyone should already be in a group, correct? Okay. I want you to now wear the headphone and have 10 minutes to speak to your group mates to find the answer for these three questions. After 10 minutes, we will come back to share the results. And please make sure you remember your group number. How many groups we have? We have 4 groups tonight. So it's A, B, C, D now? Okay. So we now have 4 groups there. It will be Team A, Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. You need to remember your group designation, so when I call for result sharing, you know which group you are in, okay? So, 10 minutes from now, let's begin.
Team A.
Are you all in? Okay. You're not in the same group. Okay, maybe you can separate a little bit so you will not interfere.
Try to see or B. Which team are you in? Which team?
Okay, you have 5 minutes to finish your discussion, and then we will have a few minutes to share the results. Okay?
是啊，在问他，他是要重新打。The only participant.
Hello, welcome to the conferencing system. Please enter the security PIN followed by the pound key. Please enter the security PIN followed by the pound key.
If anyone of you cannot hear your peers, please raise your hands. 还是听得到。你们这样看得到彼此。
Okay. Are you able to hear from me?
Yes.
Raise your hand. You can hear me? Okay. Very good. Thank you. I apologize for this problem. So now I want someone from Team A from NTU to answer the first question. Anyone? I didn't volunteer from Team A from NTU. Okay? Anyone from Team A? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Your answer to first question.
Hello, can you hear me?
We cannot hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear now. Okay.
Hello? Yes.
Yeah, good. Very clear.
Number one.
First question.
Yes, the first question. The answer is The main functional is the combination of both performance and the convenience because typical tablet is more convenient, but it usually have less performance, and a laptop is more powerful, but it's inconvenient. So sometimes inconvenient. So the Microsoft made it both convenient, but if you want to have the productivity, you can add a keyboard and be productive.
Okay. Now, your answer actually pointed out something I want to mention here. When you answer this question about the difference, I want you to focusing on the difference of function. Therefore, your statement about more performance does not apply here. It's nothing to do with performance. Understand the point? Also, when you say convenience, convenience is a statement which has to be described more in terms of function. For example, what kind of function will make it more convenient? You cannot simply say convenience. You have to tell me what are the functional difference to make it convenient. You understand the point? So when you say convenient, that to me is more a user demand. Remember, once you identify demand, you have to describe a function, right? Okay. So now I want to have you are team A. Can you answer more? Can you provide more supplementary answer? Yes.
Okay, so in that case, I would say a specific functional difference would be being able to detach the screen, making it more convenient.
Okay, that is a functional difference. Correct. Okay? Anything else? Again, you don't want to talk about performance here. You don't want to talk about price here.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You want to really look into what are the user demands when they choose a tablet versus a laptop, right? There you can say convenience, whatever, right? Then you need to answer this question in terms of what are the functional requirements that make it more convenient. Exactly. So you don't have to carry the keyboard. Understand the point? You understand the whole point? Okay? So now I want to move to, because time constraint here, I want to move to number 2. What is the strategic reason for Microsoft to do what they did? Anyone from USC? Team B? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, here. What's the strategic reason for Microsoft to do what they did for Surface?
Well, there hasn't been a product out there yet that combine the functions of a laptop with a tablet. So there's sort of the opportunity there. Microsoft take advantage of where people can essentially just have one device instead of multiple. Because
why do they do it? What's the strategic reason? Certainly, your answer is because it didn't exist. Sure. But there are many things don't exist, right? So why Microsoft do this particular thing?
Because I don't think that their original products, like just individual tablet or laptop, could necessarily compete with the popularity that Apple had with their devices. So they were trying to essentially create something that would outmatch Apple or another competing company and sort of.
Are you saying that Microsoft is doing these things sort of being forced to react to Apple? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily, but I think that with common, like, everyday devices, like, people are often referring to, like, your tablet as your iPad, and it's sort of rare that there's another competing device that's simply a tablet. So I think with, like, common consumers, not necessarily, like, people that use it for, like, engineering and stuff like that, like, obviously, like, Microsoft is very popular with, like, that, but, like, everyday, just normal laptops and stuff, I think Apple was a very popular product. And so the service.
Well, if that's the case, Microsoft could actually make a better tablet, which Surface is not quite, right?
Yeah, but there is no way to replace surface out there. So it's sort of is there a market that fits only as the
You're almost there, but you're not there. Okay. Okay. Before you drive me crazy, let me move to another student at NTU. Anyone from Team B from NTU? You want to continue? NTU from Team B. Any volunteer from Team B? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Team B.
I think besides the USB students, I think the other reason is that Microsoft is trying to open up the service and laptop market, and customers would try to buy the Windows software.
Very good. So the key here is not about competing on existing markets, which in tablet, as you point out, Apple already dominates. Because if that's the case, Microsoft should enable their customer, like HP, whatever, to build better laptops. Microsoft's strategic reason to do the Surface is because they realize that no matter how good they become in the existing market, which is both tablet and laptop, sooner or later that market becomes commodity. Everybody will then drive crazy into price competition. As a result, the market will saturate. Once the market saturates, if you were Microsoft, you will not be able to sell a lot more copies of Windows, which is your main stream of revenue. So in order to overcome that dilemma, which will always happen if you stay in the same market, Microsoft figured out the best way for them to keep selling more and more copy of Windows is what? Is to create a new market. And by that, they need to create a new design and then promote that new design, become a new dominant design. Then they can cross the chasm to become a mainstream market. Then all their customers like HP, like Dell, like Asus, like Acer will follow their dominant design, follow the dominant design Microsoft created, and make more Windows device. And in turn, Microsoft sell more Windows. Yes.
Well, what's to stop me from using alternative softwares on the service?
What do you mean? Using iOS and stuff?
No. I mean, like.
I think good question. So you're saying why HP will still use Windows rather than iOS, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's because Microsoft now has already become a dominant design on all the Windows devices, right? So people are always taking the least effort. Certainly HP can, one day they go crazy, they say, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Sure, then HP will have to fight their own battle, right? Because then you need to learn a new operating system. So far, in terms of operating system, only Apple and Microsoft is able to do it. Even Microsoft did it in the device here. Microsoft cannot even do it again in mobile device, which become Android. The good question is, this relates to, earlier we talked about the learning difficulty. So once they become a dominant design, people will try to congregate there because they don't want to force the user to learn another thing. So in theory, there's nothing to prevent the Microsoft follower to jump the ship. But in practice, nobody will do that as long as they see another new market for them to continue. They could do that if eventually everybody get pushed to the end, everybody gets no profit to make, well, they have to do something. So Microsoft don't want that to happen. Microsoft wanted to have everybody still follow them, but Microsoft as the leader in this Windows world will devote a lot of resources to keep making new territories. As a result, all the people follow Microsoft will not jump the ship from Windows. Because they can still make profit, Microsoft still can make profit. Get the point? So this is a very important thing. This morning, actually, it's very interesting. We had this same discussion, and there was one student actually had a summer internship opportunity at Microsoft, and she was actually exactly working on this Surface product line. So she came over and had a lot of very interesting on-site descriptions which match exactly what we're thinking. So I want you to now reflect on this case because we don't really have time for another one. I want you to reflect on this case to understand several things. Number one, the way to keep innovating is to innovate new markets. This is particularly important for the leader. And this is particularly difficult for software leaders. Because if they're not careful, if they follow the wrong strategy, they will upset their customers. And we have talked about Google's failure, and we have now described Microsoft's success. Now, if you look at Microsoft, you should really pay attention to what Microsoft is doing over the past 5 years. Essentially had a new CEO. This company really become very, very innovative, okay? Which is very hard because if you stay in your comfort zone, very quickly software become no business, okay? Even though everybody uses your software, you have no revenue. And Microsoft is now doing this. While they keep revenue coming, they're also moving a lot of resources into like AI. Microsoft now has a very strong AI division. Microsoft is also moving to big data. But those are the future. You cannot simply turn off what you're doing now and move to the future, right? So that's why Microsoft is doing this. Now, before I leave this, I want you to now go to the website to look at the Microsoft product release video, which just happened yesterday. Remember, all the case we talk about here has local relevance, right? Yesterday, Microsoft had this year's new product release. They released certain kind of product. I want you to pay special attention to two new products which will be available in 2020 next year. One is called Microsoft Surface Neo. It is exactly that tablet, that service book that I show you can fold, right? So now I want you to go to the website after the class to look at Microsoft Surface Neo, N-E-O. And you see that is a beautiful device which actually has two pieces both as the screen. And then they can fold, and then one piece can be used as a screen. At the meantime, can also be flipped to become a keyboard. It's such a creative design. Again, that is a new design which has not become a dominant design yet. But you can tell Microsoft is keep pushing that because their role as a leader is to create a market by creating products rather than the other way. So the one product I want you to look at is called Microsoft Neo. The other product I want you to look at is called Microsoft Duo, D-U-O. Again, you go to the website, you look at this product. The Microsoft Duo is very interesting, which I will come back later. Because right now, it seems there's a very interesting dynamics between the tablet and mobile phone industry. Because now mobile phone will now have this foldable mobile phone, right? Their goal is try to eat up the tablet industry, right? And tablet industry certainly is not sitting there to be eaten, right? They also want to come to mobile phone, right? So you can tell Samsung now is creating the Samsung Fold, which I was told by Apple I'm going to receive this next week. When I get it, I will show it to you. But this Samsung Fold is very hard technology because it requires a device with a display which is bendable. In other words, you cannot have a glass display, you have to have a plastic display, which is very hard. According to the initial review, there's a problem already with that, right? So Microsoft, coming from the tablet end into that foldable world, they decided to do something very smart. They have the device called Microsoft Duo, which is foldable, but it's not bendable. Now, I want you to think about it. It is foldable, but it's not bendable. What do I mean? I mean each is actually a separate screen. So you do have a line in the middle. But when you open a book, you read a book, the book has a line in the middle too, right? So although it's not as beautiful as a complete screen which you can bend, but it's a much safer. So Microsoft believe that has a better chance to become a dominant design. Now the jury is still out. We don't know yet. So when I get that, I will show you this new device. The whole point before I let everybody go is everyone is fighting for the leader to be leader of innovation, and the fight is on the new market. And the new market is determined by a dominant design, which you can cross into mainstream market. Until you succeed in mainstream market, you are not successful in innovation. Okay? Okay. I will put the slide on the website for you to look at it, because in the slide there are two more cases we don't have time to cover because we waste some time for the connection. And you can look at these two extra slides, and then if we have time in the future, I will come back to explain to you. Okay? So I will end tonight's class here. And NTU students understand that next week you will be off campus, but you're still welcome to log in WebEx. Regardless what, you should still engage into this 24/7 cycle online, so your learning will not stop. Okay? So I will say goodbye to everybody. We'll see each other next week. Bye. Okay, we're done.